morning, everyone. Welcome to the deep dive workshop on identifying the enabling frameworks for renewable energy multilateral power trade, organized by U.S. Agency for International Development, Regional Development Mission for Asia, or USAID RDMA, and its regional flagship energy program, USAID Southeast Asia Smart Power Program, or SPP, and the ASEAN Center for Energy, as known as ACE. As the organizer team is proud to deliver this special workshop together with all 11 distinguished women who will be speaking today. We all gather here with the same hearts and passion for renewable energy, and it is important for all of us to hear our discussion today, how we can incorporate renewable energy into the multilateral power trade. I'm sure that it's not an easy process, but let's learn together today from our women experts. Let me introduce myself. My name is Methiwan Gitkajai, or you can call me May. I am a utility for modernization from Smart Power Program. I'm honored to be your MC for this workshop. Before we get started, I would like to cover a few housekeeping items. The first one is that if you haven't yet registered for this workshop, our staff will be passed around the sign-in sheet. May I kindly ask you to provide us your information and your contact so that we can keep them as our record. And the second thing is that in each session, we built in the time for Q&A. So if you have any questions that you would like to ask our speakers, please do so in each question. We can, due to the time limit, we can probably accommodate 1 to 2 questions for each speaker. But feel free to reach out to our speakers during the coffee break, during the lunchtime, and the rest of ASF to ask them or to discuss with them. Now, let's kick off our workshop with a warm welcome to Ms. Nadila Shani, a senior officer from ASEAN Center for Energy. She will be giving an introductory presentation on essential enabling frameworks for renewable energy multilateral power trade. Please join me in welcoming Shani on the stage.
Thank you, May, for the very kind introductions, and thank you for USAID for inviting me on this panel as well. I'm excited to be here, and my aim for today's introductory presentations is to provide a context of renewable energy multilateral power trade, or we can call it power trade in the regions. What drives it, and what are the necessary things to be in place to enable that. So in ASEAN, under our cooperation framework in the energy sector, we have what we call as the APAEC, ASEAN Plan of Action for Energy Cooperations. And this is a regional blueprint for us to cooperate within the regions. And one of the key areas that we focus on as priorities is to enhance the regional interconnectivity under the ASEAN Power Grid. And I'm showing you here, this is the existing and also plan interconnectors that we want to aim in these regions to improve the interconnectivity. And what I want to highlight that under the ASEAN Power Grid, the context of regional interconnectivity here is quite different with other regions. It's a bottom-up approach. So APG consists of the bilateral cooperation between countries, and that puts together interconnectors for their connectivity. And in order to do so, in our regional cooperations, we focus in 2 areas. So in the infrastructure development, but also in market development. So the first thing is we want to support the member countries to put more interconnectors, infrastructures for the transmissions to connect more countries. And the second is to optimize the existing interconnectors that has been built to operate that and to enable bilateral or multilateral power trade in the regions. And in doing so, we have a reference called the ASEAN Interconnection Master Plans that laid out as a technical reference document for us to refer. And then could APG or with the interconnectors, could we have more renewables energy sharing in the regions? The answer is yes. So based on the study under the aims that we have, if we have more interconnectors in the regions, it would benefit the regions because we can transfer more renewable electricity. Because different countries has different potentials and also demand locations located. So with more interconnections, we could actually reap the benefit regionally. So we can, in the long term, reduce the cost as well for the electricity and do efficient planning for the renewable energy additions as well in the regions. But in order to do so, there are things that needs to be in place, especially strengthening the national grid and also do alignment or harmonizations of the regulations between the countries itself. And if we want to reach up or achieve the aspirational target that we want in the regions to have 23% renewable energy shares, then we need to put more and more interconnectors in the regions. And what are the key driver basically for putting more renewables or facilitating more renewables multilateral power trade in the regions? And we think that there are two main drivers. First is that the country, all of them in Southeast Asia, has a higher renewable target, and also their ambitions for decarbonizations for the power sector. And this really drives why countries are more cooperate and collaborate to transfer or to trade renewable energy. And the second thing is that the corporate consumers in these regions is also hungry for renewable electricity for their operations to decarbonize their supply chains. And shown in this graph that there are more and more renewables electricity needed from the consumer in order for them to maintain their competitiveness, and also for the big nationals, big companies that pledge under these different target like SPTI or RE100, they want their operations to be using renewables. So this and most of this demand are located in Southeast Asia, and it's really growing. So these are the push why renewable energy trading or renewable energy multilateral power trade are growing in these regions as well. So it comes to the questions, does the RE cross-border trading exist in ASEAN, and what are the enablers of it? So I want to acknowledge that for this type of cross-border trading, there are two types. First is the grid-to-grid power trade. This is from system to system cross-border trading that involves maybe two countries or more. So for example, now we have LTM and LTMS interconnections, cross-border trade from that Laos is trading their hydropower to Singapore all the way through Thailand and Malaysia as the willing country. And that later on will be discussed more with by the next speakers. And also there are, the second type is the generation to grid. So this is more straightforward kind of cross-border trading. So it's from the generations directly to one national grid. And both types of sort of cross-border trading using renewables has their own pros and cons. And I just want to highlight that we need to support both of it because both of it has enable different benefits as well. But both types has different sort of like complexity to it, and there are needs to policy tools in place to enable that, especially the green tagging for this RE cross-border trading using RECs. And perhaps this will be discussed more later on in the panel and with the other speaker as well today. And so how to basically increase the RE utilizations in the cross-border trading using the ASEAN Power Grid. So if we are looking at the grid-to-grid renewable MPT, transmissions or interconnectors is the key enabling factor that connects the demands and the buyers. And in order to do so, if we want to have multilateral power trade in the region, I think we have three things that needs to be addressed. First is the planning. The second is to ensuring the interoperability of these interconnectors so it can run smoothly, because then you are connecting different grids or different systems. And the third is how to build a working business model and the investment around it, because it's very hard to finance transmissions, and it's even harder to facilitate or invest on interconnectors, because it involves not only one countries but two countries. So investment is a big chunk of the things that we need to support and we need to push forward for if we want to see more renewable MPT in the regions. And in order to do that, we need, for the planning, we need coordinations and alignment. So how to make the regional planning, how to use the renewables in different countries, and how to trade those and to plan those generations capacity is needed, that needs to be pushed in regionally. So in order doing that, a coordinated regional planning is needed. And the second one, for the ensuring the interoperability, there are a lot of things that needs to be in place. So for example, the data sharing, grid code harmonizations, available transmissions capacity methodology is something, all the technical things that needs to be discussed and agreed among the parties that is involved. And I think there are a lot of this topic will be discussed more later today. And for the third thing, how to create a market and a working business model for interconnectors is important. And one of the policy tools or to enable that is identifying the wheeling charges and also the renewable energy certificate framework to it, because then it provides an incentive or it's additional revenue or for that's possible for to finance the interconnectors. So there are a lot of topics and a lot of things that needs to be in place in order to push this renewable electricity multilateral power trade. And in doing so, of course, it's a big task to do and it's a journey for the regions. So that's why support from different organizations are needed. So we are working with not only with the ASEAN stakeholders, but also with different partners in the regions on how to move this and solve and address those challenges that I just mentioned. And I'm excited for today's discussions. There are a lot of things that we will cover on the discussions and we'll learn more from our experts today. With that, I end my presentations, and yeah, I'll give back to you, May. Thanks.
Thank you, Shani, for a wonderful presentation. It's always interesting to learn that how much ASEAN needs renewable energy, and also to learn about the initiatives in this region and how international development practitioners are working together to support ASEAN to do so. So our next session is about ASEAN's flagship renewable energy multilateral power trade arrangement, or LTMS PIP, and its full name is the Laos, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore Power Integration Project. Here to present on this topic is a representative from the letter T, or Thailand, Ms. Thitiphorn Sangphet, a Chief of Power System Connection and Coordination Planning Department from the Electricity Generating Authority of Thailand, or EGAT. Dr. Mai, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. May, and thank you all. Thank you, ADB. Thank you, USAID, for these opportunities. It is my privilege to be here. Today talk, I'm going to tell you about the story of the LTMS PAP. What happening since the beginning? When people talking about the LTMS PAP, people thinking about it is the first as ever flagship for RE multilateral power trade. So let's see what it is all about. Something wrong. Okay. So the contents, before I'm going to go through all of that, I just wanna, telling you step by step what I'm going to talk about. Maybe not gonna go that more far because of Shani already talked about that, about the ASEAN power grid. So I'm going to touch upon just a little bit and then we go quickly to the evolutions of the LTMS PAP, the timelines, the whole story about that, the LTM PAP. People might not recognize or even know about the LTM before then and LTMS PAP and what is the outlook after this, what we are going to go further about this. Later on, once we learn from this, so we should realize and seeking for any further opportunity. So we must have a look what is the multilateral power trade essential elements over there. So we can just go for the next step from now. So the next step not only for the necking down for the essential elements, but also we need to have a look at the operation consideration, the constraint so far we have tackled over the 10 years since 2014. Then we see about the challenges, what behind them and what we're going to move from now on, and the roles of the RE, like Shani just mentioned, because of people nowadays, they don't need only the power, the electricity, they need more. What they need is the green energies, green power. So I'm going to talk about that and then we prepare for the next step for the way forward for the futures. Okay. It just as I'm from IGAT Thailand, so please allow me and bear with me a little bit. I like to introduce myself, my countries, my organizations. What have we been so far to contribute in terms of the power trade throughout the regions? You can see that Thailand cross-border power trade development have been done for so long times ago, even before I born, 1968. We start having the power trading. The first power trading is via the bilateral power trading. At that time, we having this kind of power trading for the energy security sake. Because of Thailand, in that time, we don't have much power to serve for the demands. While Lao PDR, our lovely neighbors, our dear friend, they have humongous amount of the power available for us. So we two countries enhance this power trading since then. Mostly it is the bilateral power trade between two countries. Later on, I said that we start the LTMS, the multilateral power trade, as ever. It is the flagship project for the ASEAN. Since 2014, we start the LTM and then we go further for the LTMS. With this, we come up with the new ideas of instead of trading between utilities and utility, but we do the bidding via the power market. So with that, I'm going to show you how we do so. And not only that, Thailand aim more. We think that not only among the ASEAN, we should seek for further opportunities out there. So Thailand volunteered to be the gateway to link up with the other regions. For example, we're going to cross regional trading with BIMSTEC. You can see that BIMSTEC is the South Asia. So with that, we hand in hand with the Myanmar to be the gateway, carry on the power from our regions to the other regions, either import or export. In the meantime, we also working through the sub-regional and regional trading as well. In terms of the regional trading, might not be the flagship, but we have done some study for so far for the ASEAN Power Grid, for example. But there's not much in progress, only the LTMS for now. And maybe in the future, there are going to be more like BIMP, BIMS, Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Power Integration Project going to come along later. Or even the sub-regional for the GMS, we already have some cooperation with the Japanese and the Japan and US government with the Great Mekong sub-regions. So we have done some new project. We call it LTC, Lao, Thai, Cambodia Power Integration Project. The projects already kick off the study, and then you're going to see the feasibility study out there, and then we can show you the update later. So here is about the thing about the cross-border power trade development so far in Thailand. So you know what? When you're going to do the trading, the most important thing is the infrastructure. You need to have, like when you like to cross along the river, you need to have the bridge. Same, when you like to trade the power, you need to have the interconnection infrastructure. So the easiest way to do so, you do interconnection with your neighbors. You close to the borders with whoever, you do the interconnection with them before you go beyond. We be friends with your neighbors first. So we try our best to do so at the beginning. You can see that for the right hand side, Thailand, we neighbors with Lao PDR. So we do have the point two grid interconnection. I forget to tell you that in terms of I'm from the plannings. So my point of view when we're talking about interconnection, when we do planning, we need to see what type of the interconnection and the trading we are going for. For example, if you see there, we call it point two grid interconnections. And the other thing is the grid to grid interconnection. Point two grid means that, for example, in Laos PDR, they have their own generation, power generation a lot. So one generation is 700 megawatt or more. Some right now, lately, the maximum is 1400 megawatt. It's going to come along very soon. In less than 10 years, you're going to see more. So right in that, I put point two grid mean that we buy the whole power from the generator and plug into power system of the Thailand. So we call it point two grid. This generator not going to connect with EDL, the Laos PDR power system, directly connect with EGAT. We do command to this power generation, so it is okay. In terms of the operation and management in long term, easier to handle and manage. The other kind of thing, the challenges, and it is the good sake for the people of the two countries along the border. It is the grid to grid. Grid to grid is the EDL, the power utilities in Lao PDR and Thailand EGAT. We have interconnection via the lower level. Not lower, it is the medium voltage, let's say that 115 kV. With this, we try to ensure that people along the border, because of it is far away from the load center, can access to the power. So with this, at the beginning, we share the power, the access power, because of, don't forget that in terms of the Lao PDR, their majority products, the commodity of their country, it is power, the electricity. So, and they are rich in natural resources, hydro, and from now on, maybe solar and wind, you can see more in the futures. So with that, they still have excess power, the surplus power to be able to import to neighbors like Thailand. So with that, we come up with the other scheme. When talking about the infrastructure, the type of the interconnection, we call it grid to grid or point to grid, but in terms of the transaction, in terms of the purchase agreement, we call it energy exchange. With this, it is the bilateral, meaning two way of the flow. Either whenever one system have access power, they can just import directly to the other country. So this is maybe the key for the quick win success for the futures. If we like to go for the flagship, you don't need to worry much about the contract, because of, don't forget that when talking about the point two grid, it is you need to deal with the third party, the owner of the power plant, because of they secure their investment over the long-term PPA, not like the grid to grid. It is between utility and utility. When the policy from each country saying that the direction should go and promote RE trading, it is okay, because of it is the government point of view. So they can embark this in either the higher level, in the ministerial meeting level, or in the special official levels or whatever. So things can go very quick. But for the point to grid, something maybe, I can talk more about this later. So in terms of the other country, we have the potential. For example, on the left-hand side, you can see Myanmar. We have done some pre-feasibility study. There's some potential, a lot, but mostly it is we need to just export the power to the Myanmar at the beginning first, because of they still in need of the power at the moment. And the highlight is going to be via Mae Sot Myawaddy. Myawaddy is very close to Yangon, the closest one. So maybe this is the case for the futures. But right now, people know that Myanmar might not be in the condition to prolong, to go along with this kind of. But in the futures, we pray for this country to go on. And to Malaysia down there. When talking about ASEAN power grid, we separate in 3 areas. Northern part is accounting from Thailand upper to lower Mekong, along the Mekong regions. And down there, southern of the ASEAN power grid from Malaysia down. The eastern is going to be Indonesia and Philippines. So we get we are blessing to be the gateway from east to west, north to south. North, we connect near China. West, east and west. On the other side, Pacific regions. The other side is South Asia to India, for example. Down there to Malaysia. Malaysia, we have done the work with Malaysia for so far. You can see our geographical map of Thailand. You can see that we start having the HVDC interconnection with Malaysia since 2000. Year 2000. And we start energized to do the SCOD in 2001. With that, we rely on the support of the TNB a lot, because of the weakness of the Thailand network down there to the south. Because of the load center and the generators of Thailand is upper in central area and eastern part of Thailand. That's it. So that is the way that at the beginning, when talking about Malaysia HVDC, is to serve for the system security at the beginning. And then later, once we when we construct some power plant down south, and then we have 500 kV backbone from central down to southern part. So now we not rely much on this HVDC, and then we come up. It's just the same time that we come up with the LTMS. So this is the good thing for the whole region as well. So this is the HVDC. Talking about the agreement, as you can see, there's 2 kinds of agreement here. It's very important, because of one infrastructure sometimes can serve more than one purpose. For example, I'm talking about Lao PDR, grid to grid interconnection. We serve as the system integration, the power exchange between 2 countries. At the same time, it serves for the LTMS project as well. So in one interconnector can serve more than one purpose, just like HVDC as well. The first priority is for the system security. Under the system integration interconnection agreement, there's the integration agreement between two countries, and then on top of it, we have LTMS PIP project to come along. And the other interconnection, people might not know much because of actually it's down south too. It is HVAC. So over there, it is really isolated area from Thailand. Actually, Thailand, we leave some load demand to Malaysia via 115, 132 kV Sadao Chuping. Mean because of Thailand system is 115 kV. Wow. Malaysia, they use 132 kV. So at Thailand borders, at the substation connecting point, we have power transformer. Step up from 115 down to up to 132 kV. And then interconnect via the transmission line AC to the Malaysia. So here is all of the interconnection. You need to have the foundation before you go further. Okay, I think I have the problem with, okay. So ASEAN Power Grid, I'm not going to talk much because of Chani already talked about that. The one thing I like to highlight on is we have been done ASEAN Power Grid for over 2 decades. I can tell you that. And the serious and the really kind of hard work, the real one, we endorse it at the government level in 2007. So things are written up in the document in reals, and it's already expired actually because of, but now we extend for 2 years to make prep for the new ASEAN Power Grid MOU. But we call it the framework agreement, something like that. I'm not quite sure. Maybe we can ask Chani about that. The interconnection is 18 projects. 18 projects. You can see from the map that previously, I forgot to highlight you that Thailand and Lao PDR, we trade over 6,000 megawatt already. If you see on the table, 18 projects, 7,007 megawatt. It is between Thailand and Laos PDR for 6,000 megawatt. Yeah, because of it's over the number 9. Actually, when we're talking about number 9, the interconnection between country to country. But down there are so many projects down there, either grid to grid or either the point to grid. So we count the number, but others you see the detail inside. So just want to highlight. Okay, I hope you don't, get bored with me. So go ahead a little bit. Because of today, they asked me to tell you about the story of the LTMS PIP. So the story is back then since June 14. Actually, even before then, I just have a look and searching for the history. Actually, it started in December 2013. We need to give the credit to Singapore. At that time, we are the 31st SOM meeting. SOM is the ASEAN Special Official Meeting. So with that, it is the high level. Singapore, they provoke the ideas of the energy connectivity project. However, it come and talk on the table in June 14 via the meeting in Lao PDR. It is officially initiate the LTMS project. So the 4 member countries, Laos, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore, come sit and talk about what we are going to go for the energy connectivity to go further. Then we established the task forces because of we need to do the study before we implement the project. So the task forces at that time, there are 4 task forces for the technical viability, for the legal and regulatory frameworks, for commercial arrangement, and also for tax and tariff. So make sure that we get all of the aspects to go further for the LTMS PIP project in real. And then in Myanmar, during the 31st during the ministerial level, the ASEAN ministerial level, we signed up the MOU. At this time, Singapore, they withdraw at the beginning. So only that's why you can see that you need to know that LTM starting first, and then only 3 parties try to exercise this, and then at that time sign the MOU, not put the electron on the interconnection yet. The interconnection will be after we sign the energy purchase and wheeling agreement. So with the first LTM PIP, it is about Laos, Thai, and Malaysia. We import the power from Laos. Thailand is the wheeler, and the one who get the power is the Malaysia. It take over 2 sessions, 2 phases to get all things done and see the fruitful outcome on this. Then you can see that we have done the LTMPAP. The last phase finished in December 21. However, before then, in June 20, we do and make prep for the LTMS PIP because of you need to have the study first, whether or not it is viable and feasible. So at this time, Singapore joined the first LTMS working group meeting, and then they support the initiative idea. Maybe instead of 3, we go for 4, and instead of they're going to absorb this, why not we bidding in their market because of they have swim. I can tell you about that later. And now we already done the LTMS PIP for year and nearly year and a half something because of it nearly expired in this June. Oh, nearly 2 years. Yeah. So in this June, we need to come up with a new phase, and the outcome and the decision from the government of the 4 countries come with the same direction. It is to further continue the LTMS in the 2 phase. The something different. It is because of, I'm not gonna go on this much. The thing that I like to highlight on is the either LTM or either LTMS. One thing you need to have a look to is we haven't done any new investment. We use the existing infrastructure. The traded is going to trade via the existing infrastructure from Thailand and Lao PDR. We use the energy exchange scheme for the power agreement, power purchase agreement. The existing is the grid-to-grid interconnection type. While for Thailand and Malaysia, we use the energy exchange as well. We use the HVDC, the existing infrastructure too, to exercise and test whether or not the multilateral power trade work for sure before we implement as a whole for the ASEAN countries. Okay, and the other thing you need to bear in mind is the power. It is just the surplus power from the Lao PDR. Like I tell you, Lao PDR during the rainy season, they have surplus power, and they cannot. Most of the power in Lao PDR is the runoff river hydropower plant. They cannot store the water, just only produce the electricity. So instead of the curtail or just leave it out there, so sending to the neighboring country instead. Meanwhile, the same with the LTMS PIP. The trading still interconnection must use the existing infrastructure. And on top of the agreement, it's going to be 2 types because of now the players changing from 3 to 4 players. It is the supplier still Laos PDR, while Thailand and Malaysia playing a role as a wheeler. We wheel the power to the importer. Importer is the capital infrastructure. I think you attend the opening ceremony. Yeah, capital going to bid being as a bidding operator in the SWAM. SWAM is the Singapore wholesale electricity market. So with this, there are two types of the agreement, supply agreement between EDL and Keppel, while the energy wheeling agreement is between three member countries, Lao PDR, Thailand, and TNB. So in returns of the payment, Lao PDR will pay EGAT and TNB, while Keppel pay all of the amount money for energy and also the wheeling charge to EDL. So the term is nearly done by 21st of this June. Now we are running nearby the end, and then we are working on the new phase of the LTMS. The outlook, what the difference? What we have seen in the LTMS, PAP is working so well. You can see that the power that we sending through the Singapore is over 266 gigawatt hour, a lot. 10 times before we do the LTM PAP project for the two phases. Yeah, that's something need to give the credit to the market. So one thing though that not reflect the reality, the real market, it is there's only one single seller and one single buyer and always one wheeler, two parties. But in reality, if it in the market, the real market, you need to have multiple seller, multiple buyer, and the direction, not have only one way direction, and it is still long-term contract. So we try to see this and say like, maybe for the next phase, we need to do something different because of the test is already done well with the LTMS, but we need to implement the multi-directional and multiple seller and buyer on this phase. And also, should we come up with the trading platform for not only for the RE, because of people keep saying that for the LTMS PAP is the RE trading. RE quoted only hydro, okay? Because of in Lao PDR, they consider having only the hydro power at the moment. So right now, the trading capacity that we have been discussed in the 4 countries going to volume up to 200 megawatt because of during the LTMS PAP only 100 megawatt. So for down up and up north down to Singapore, one line still remain the same 100 megawatt because of we have some system constraint. I can tell you later. With that, so Thailand and Malaysia, also Lao PDR can serve only 100 as we have done in the past in LTMS. So the rest, the power purchase will come as a brown out, the brown resources, the brown powers from Malaysia. So at least there are two different. So through trading platform, for in total, the Malaysia can supplementing the power full up, reach up to 200 megawatt for this, and then duration going to go for 2 more years. This is the key things in the, so the key element when we are talking of, so what it is about the multilateral power trade, in my view, there are two key elements you need to talk about, very important for the key success. One is the hard element. It is the infrastructure itself. You need to have the interconnector to make sure that you can flow the power. Interconnector is very important. The other elements that really important too, it is the soft elements. It is like the market mechanism, the trading mechanism, the kind of the agreement, either the enabling agreements and frameworks, anything, power purchase agreement, the wheeling agreements, etc., to reflect the clear and transparency of the trading. So that's the thing, maybe the key of the success for the future that we need to consider if we go further for the next phase of the LTMS. I think I ran off the time. So the operational constraint or consideration as a system planner and the team in the LTMS task force, I'm talking about the interconnection between Laos and Thailand. You need to understand the the natures of the two countries that Lao PDR they reach in power during the rainy season. They import the power because of they cannot store, and it should not store. Just leave it to the neighbors. It's better. It economical viable. So with that, sometime over the 115 kV interconnection with the not really strong, with the really not really strong power grid in the countries, and then injected the power in Thailand, kind of bigger system with the load and generation in the system. Sometimes there's the oscillation happen. We occurs a lot. When we have the oscillation happen, we don't have for these LTMS PIP, the first phase, we haven't do any grid code. It is just between two countries, the operator talking all over, but we haven't done any real regional grid code yet. So this is maybe the other step we make to ensure that we put into account. Might not be for the LTMS PIP, but in anywhere, somewhere, someone must study or do something to ensure that this is not going to be the obstacle for the multilateral power trade. The same with the Thailand and Malaysia. This is because of the interconnection that we use. It is the very old, the very aging, nearly 20 years, and the technology of HVDC always obsolete. We cannot find the spare part. It is hard when Singapore needed power and then we run out. We have some outages, the system outages, or because of we don't have the spare part. Sometimes we have the problem with the upper north from Lao PDR. There's the oscillation. That's the thing that maybe we think that the corporate between utility in terms of the planning on either the O&M and the reinvestment might need to consider as well. So technical, this is the same. You can have a read through. I'm not gonna go this. The priority, I mentioned about that. Okay, I'm going to cut off. The challenges is out there. One challenge is when you go for the LTMS PIP project, the priority is really important because of one interconnectors. You serve several purposes. So the priority is something right in the agreement or the framework. Perhaps you need to put something in there to ensure that the multilateral power trade is coming along. And just let me go for the other aging every. So actually, I really like to go to this page because of at the beginning. One minute. It is about the IE, my ladies and gentlemen, because of talking about the power in the past, we do trade the power, the electron to flow, meet up the demand, needs of the customer. But nowadays, no. RE100, people asking for the green electricity because they need to use it as a paperwork to go abroad for the other thing. I don't want to say, for example, REC and other things. So with that, maybe it is the time to thinking about not only the trading from the electricity market like we have done in LTMS, we should have the RE certificate or associated kind of REC coming along. It is the time. With that, we, Thailand, and our Mekong member country, along with two governments, Japan and US, we have done the initiative in Lower Mekong regions. So with that, we're going to come up with the LTC, Laos, Thai, and Cambodia PIP, Power Integration Project, to test the trading program, not only for the trading from Thailand. You can see that the green interconnection, very tiny one, but the amount of the advantage is huge, humongous, because of not only we do the available transfer capability, we going to test the works of the cross-border REC, whether or not we can implement and use, because of we still always think that We are one ASEAN, one grid, one community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mai. Thank you, Kap. That's one new thing that I learned about Dr. Mai today. I know her as a power planning expert, power trade expert, but today what I learned from her is that she's also a talented storyteller and presenter. So thank you so much for walking us through the history of LTMS. So our next session gonna be a panel discussion on perspective from across the Asia Pacific. This is a critical topic, and we are blessed to have a group of esteemed women experts who will share their insights and perspectives. Allow me to introduce our moderator and panelists. So first of all, our moderator, Ms. H.J. Lee, a GMS ASEAN Program Lead from ADB. And we also have 3 panelists joining her. The first one is a power trade expert from South Asia, Ms. Monali Seya, a regional and clean energy specialist from US and India. Next, we have a Central Asia expert, Ms. Bayan Abel Kairowa, the Deputy Chief of Party from USAID Power Center Asia. And joining them is Ms. Jenny Chen. She is a program analyst from World Resources Institute, known as WRI. Please welcome all of them on the stage. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. This is Hyunjong Lee. You can call me HJ. I'm GMS and ASEAN Energy Program Lead from the Asian Development Bank. So it is my great pleasure to be part of these amazing women leaders. So feel honored in part of this session. Thank you very much for USAID, our very close partner for this ASEAN GMS program, for inviting me and to moderate this session. And also I must say that we feel kind of a bit of pressure in a way after so exciting, interesting storytellers presentation, and how we can make actually the audience more excited with the rest of the stories. So what I like to do is now we have learned a lot about Southeast Asia, and we also learned that there's a great momentum from the ASEAN as a whole to really setting up the framework and also the plan for action. And also we learned that a lot of this multilateral power trade actually really driven by the needs for clean energy for the energy transition, net zero target and climate mitigation. So we have a huge agenda actually to meet, and this renewable energy development, and then also the energy transition is at the heart of this achievement. And this renewable energy demand, indeed, is coming from the private sector, but also from the NDC, from the government. So this is driving for the power trade. Because in the past, power trade is not only meant for the renewable per se, because the electronics, we cannot differentiate green or brown when it's transmitted over grid. But now what is changing is actually the green or the clean energy needs. And that's actually the driver of this multilateral power trade. And more interconnection is needed, because without this interconnection, this energy transition is difficult to achieve. Even if we can achieve, but it can come with a higher, much expensive cost. And therefore, now interconnection or power trade, it is not an option, but it's become a very much necessity for everyone in every country. So I believe that we are moving toward the kind of connected world, even not only by internet, but even by this power interconnection. And on this context, we like to invite actually the amazing also panelists, from the Central Asia as well as South Asia, to share their kind of status in terms of power trade, and then also kind of role of the renewable energy development in driving those trends. And also we have panelists from private sector because share the perspective from the private sector in terms of the needs for clean energy, how urgent it is, how big it is actually for the rest of the government, and then also the rest of the stakeholders like government and the utilities has to work together. So with this remark, I'd like to invite Modali first and for sharing her experiences and then also views on the South Asia power trade and market. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Edjay. And good morning, very good morning to everyone. I'm Monalizia Hasra from USAID India Mission. I've been working on cross-border power trade or regional energy cooperation for past 10 years, and a very good story to tell. In fact, in South Asia, I'll just quickly take you through some of the statistics. Cross-border power trade in last 10 years in South Asia has gone up almost 3 times. It has tripled. And that's a great story to say. And even if we look at market-based power trade, that is the neighboring countries like Bhutan and Nepal have started participating in the Indian energy exchanges in the day-ahead market and the real-time market, and which started in 2021. And even there you see a very positive trend that the market-based trade has also gone up by 3 times. Despite a great story, a very positive development, it is still very far off from its potential. We are currently, the potential is around 43.8 gigawatt by 2043. And when compared to many other regions, like as you were saying, and Europe, we are still very far off from, the potential. In fact, South Asia region is one of the least interconnected. So, while a positive story, still a lot of tremendous opportunity for the region. And what is, a positive or a great part of it is that much of the cross-border power trade is driven by cleaner energy resources. As you rightly pointed out, right now when we started, the cross-border power trade started, it was mostly fossil-based power trade, which was happening in the region, with India selling or India exporting power to other countries. Since Nepal specifically or Bangladesh did not have enough resources at that point of time. Bhutan always has traditionally been an exporter and has always been selling cleaner hydro resources to India. But with the development of hydro resources in Nepal, we are slowly moving into a trend where more and more cleaner energy or hydro resources are replacing fossil-based power. So for example, at this point of time, it is around 16% of total CBT is driven by hydro resources. In terms of potential, as mentioned earlier, it's huge. The South Asia has 350 gigawatt of hydro potential. Much of it is with Nepal and Bhutan, but even India and other countries do have hydro resources. And the benefits was, mentioned earlier by my other speakers. Just having, a World Bank study had indicated that just hydropower can increase by 2.7 times if there is an unconstrained flow of electricity. So if you have interconnected grid, we will be able to maximize hydropower resources. And the CO2 emission in the region is expected to fall by 8%. Even as a part of a USAID study, when we had looked at Nepal, India, and Bangladesh multilateral trade, only within these 3 countries, the total capex of power sector could reduce by as much as 17 billion. So tremendous opportunities are there. And again, as earlier pointed out, each of these countries have set itself a very high standards or goals for renewable energy. With India has set a target of 500 gigawatt of non-fossil energy by 2050, and if that by 2030, sorry. So if that comes in, an integrated, unconstrained flow will really help. Hydro resources from Nepal and Bhutan can help India develop its own solar and wind potential, which will ultimately go into the other regions. So where we are in terms of regional cooperation in South Asia, if you see the stage one was essentially establishing the benefits of cross-border power trade, bringing all the stakeholders together, building a trust among them, a camaraderie among them. So the initial portion of that, USAID spent quite a bit of its initial work in the region through a program which we call as SARI, on building a lot of trust, building a lot of, establishing the benefits of it. We did a number of economic studies which showed that, yes, having a cross-border power trade really benefits each of the country. It is not just one country which would benefit, but all of these countries. But now we are at the second stage where we are now looking at taking what the fully established, bilateral trade has been established. How can we now move to the trilateral or a multilateral trade which can really flourish? So we are at that very nice sweet spot where we can really benefit by moving into trilateral and multilateral trade. So at this stage, we are through a program called SAREP, we are supporting in the stage 2, where we are helping in developing operating standards, still helping bring the political will within the region through various interventions, which I can later on cover because I also see the timer there. We are also, working on building the capacities of all the key stakeholders to work in a different format. I mean, government to government, bilateral trade, well established, but as we move toward exchange-based, market-based, trilateral trade, all those frameworks have to be developed, and that is what we are focusing. We have been hand-holding Nepal and Bhutan in terms of building the capacities to operate in the trade markets, and now we are looking at also supporting Bangladesh to enter into the Indian energy exchange. But overall, overall the goal is that we will move into stage 3, which will be more, a regional power pool sort of engagement. At this point of time, we are more focused on, we are more working within the Indian power system or Indian power markets to establish a trade. And over a period of time, like right now, most of the power exchanges, Nepal and Bhutan are selling clean power, which is hydropower in the Indian exchange. But a period will come when, we will have other countries and India also selling solar power. For at this moment, I'll end with that example. At this moment of time, the load is tremendous. We have like 42 to 44, 45 degrees centigrade temperatures in Delhi. So power is at all-time high. But it also means that we are generating a lot of solar energy. So what's happening that during the daytime, we are sending the solar power to the other countries and importing the hydro resources from Nepal and Bhutan during the off solar power. So already this solar clean energy is happening. It becomes difficult to quantify what is flowing in the transmission system, but the trend is definitely positive. So I'll stop there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Very interesting. Also stories from South Asia. So a lot of experience, like in the case of the Southeast Asia, moving to also kind of multilateral power trade, use of the also power pool, I think from India. They're actually playing some roles actually in terms of the power trade. We'll hear more in terms of challenges later on in the panel discussion. But in the meantime, also let me invite Bayan for the Central Asia experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me first give brief background information on the power sector overview and clean energy targets in Central Asia. So the Central Asia countries, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyz Republic, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan has very diverse energy resources. As you can see from the slide, for example, Kazakhstan has about 70% of coal generated. Coal generation, while Tajikistan and Kyrgyz Republic, 92% of generation comes from hydro, very rich hydro resource countries. Turkmenistan is almost 100% gas generation, and Uzbekistan is also dominating with gas generation. Despite of this, I mean, like this rich hydro resources and the diverse energy resources in 5 countries, Kazakhstan established ambitious target, being coal-generated country, established target for carbon neutrality by 2060, and government is planning to reach 50% of power generation from alternative and renewables by 2050. Uzbekistan today has the most ambitious targets on clean energy, is 25 gigawatt or 40% of renewable energy generation mix by 2030, while today Uzbekistan has installed capacity of renewables is about 1.7 gigawatt. And by 2030, they want to have 25 gigawatt of renewables, in particular solar and wind. Kazakhstan, as of today, we have about 150 projects of renewable solar and wind, and for total capacity about 3 gigawatts. So as you can see, the ambitious targets, I would say the for power market, regional trade power market, the renewables are one of the key drivers. Let me also give the some background information on Central Asia regional power trade, power system. The energy system of Central Asia historically was established in 1970s during Soviet period of time. It was a united system, and at that time there was a certain balance between the regions, between the electricity generation and the water use for irrigation. For example, in winter, Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan, with their rich hydro resources, they stored water in reservoirs and received electricity and energy resources from Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan, while in the summer, Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan sent water accumulated in during the winter period. They sent to neighboring countries for irrigation. Also in the summer, Tajikistan and Kyrgyz Republic supplied electricity surplus to Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. But today's the situation since then has changed considerably. Today, not 5 countries, but only 3 countries work in parallel. It is Kazakhstan, Kyrgyz Republic, and Uzbekistan, and the level of cross-border trade is only about 10% of the level during the Soviet period time. Turkmenistan left the system in 2003. It was the country's own initiative, because they have found interest in the market of Iran country and in the Iranian energy system, and as of today they still works in a parallel regime. Tajikistan was separated from CAPS, Central Asia Regional Power System, in 2009 because of several repeated violations of parallel work requirements and conditions, and as a result of this disconnection, all these years since 2009, that Tajik energy system has been independently regulating frequency, and it was possible because of the large reserves available at its hydropower plants. in contrary to that, for Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, it is practically impossible to resolve frequency regulation problems with thermal power plants based on coal and gas, and weak reserves and HPPs in Kyrgyzstan. So the situation today, before the countries had excess of electricity, but today the situation changes. Countries are getting the shortage of electricity. For example, Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan already began purchasing electricity from Turkmenistan. We don't have like established market, like fully like regional Central Asia regional electricity market functioning, but all the trading are on bilateral level. Also, the climate change issues. We got hot summers lately, hot summers in basically in all Central Asia countries. And with this, Central Asia countries experience the rapid increase in electricity consumption. Hydro-rich countries had extremely dry years, so glaciers melting and climate change create risks of power deficit and reduction of hydropower generation. Also, as I mentioned in first slide, that countries developing actively renewables, and with increased share of renewables, especially for Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, it is getting a serious problem of power system stability because of intermittent and variable renewables. We need more, these countries need more flexible generation, more maneuverable capacities to ensure stability of the system. So in this regard, why CAREM is Central Asia Regional Electricity Market? CAREM is important, and why what are preconditions for CAREM? There are several. As I mentioned, Central Asia has diverse energy resources. At the same time, national power generation and transmission systems are aging. Like we have high losses. Okay. Some countries experience like deficit. So open regional electricity market can reduce electricity prices. We have Tajikistan now is in process of connection, reconnection with the power with the regional power system, and it will benefit other countries, will motivate for trading. And there is ongoing the power network construction in Central Asia. So with increased renewable energy shares, the countries of Central Asia are more interested in power trade. But for this, of course, then there is a need, first of all, the political decision, the technical. So I think during discussion, I might share more details on the proposed, what USAID Power Central Asia is proposing, what the scheme. I would like also to share this information during discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, very comprehensive presentation. Like other region, at least the Central Asia has a unified the system before. So technically, they're kind of harmonized in a way, but the challenge is more to the non-physical part in her presentation. So we'll discuss a bit more on challenges later on. As a last presenter, also let me invite Jenny to share the private sector perspective and demand. And she already had a presentation yesterday, so also we can invite her to share her reflection after yesterday's discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, HJ, and thank you to ADB and USAID for inviting me to be a part of this panel. And I've just learned so much from hearing the speakers this morning. So my name is Jennifer Chen from the World Resources Institute. The World Resources Institute is a co-secretariat of the Asia Clean Energy Coalition. And since I spoke on the regional grid session yesterday, I'll avoid repeating anything that I said yesterday, but I do want to make sure to note that as a coalition, it's we do put forward positions on a consensus basis. So unless if I specify otherwise, today's remarks are my own. But we are a new coalition. It's a coalition of many household names, large clean energy buyers, also suppliers, and financiers. And it's a coalition that's growing, and we welcome more. Other co-secretariats include GWEC and the Climate Group. So one of the key initiatives that this coalition pursued was a paper on the ASEAN power grid. So I put the QR code up here, and you can read about the basic positions, but it's very supportive of expanding the infrastructure and the market mechanisms in the ASEAN region. Now, many of these thank you to Shani for the wonderful presentation on Southeast Asia and also a graph very similar to this. Many of the corporate clean energy buyers exist in all regions around the world. And one question is, why did they focus this paper on Southeast Asia? Well, Southeast Asia is having a political moment, and we often talk about political will. And so seizing on that political interest to renew the Memorandum of Understanding, the Asia Clean Energy Coalition is very interested in a strong renewal of what is going to be a more detailed framework agreement, as well as the implementing protocols. So this graph shows just how incredibly important it is to ensure that the resources that we're procuring on the grid is clean. So apologies that a little bit of the text is cut off, but you can see how much corporate clean energy demand there is, how much of the demand is being represented by renewables. So we have quite a ways to go. It's a little bit worrisome because, let me just skip through that slide. Sorry if this slide's a little bit US focused. It's focused on data centers, but the idea here is the same for Asia too. Demand is growing, and we have new kinds of demand, lumpy demand, and very large demand. So data centers, like you can see that the y-axis is in gigawatts, and between now and 2030, we're looking at about 15 gigawatts in the US. Asia needs data centers too. Asia is also electrifying. You also have new manufacturing that's very energy intensive. So if we're not keeping up with this demand with clean energy resources, we're increasing emissions and we're increasing use of fossil fuels. So just some of the reflections that I've heard from yesterday, and we have a lot of thorny problems that we have to solve together. Asia Clean Energy Coalition is a new entity, so we have to be very humble about what we can do. We want to be a part of the community, and we want to make sure that we're doing things that are helpful. So certainly, we'd like to coordinate very much with this community and ask you, what questions you have for us and what ideas you have for how we can help. Some of the thorny problems include political will, financing. I don't have any answers today for you, but I can take questions back and bring to our members, hey, these are the things that we could potentially help with. A lot of these issues will take a community to fix, and certainly maybe we can talk a little bit about financing later. But the benefits of an expanded grid are for many. So it's not just corporate clean energy buyers, governments will benefit, communities will benefit. And it's a question of, all right, can we better identify the benefits more granularly and the beneficiaries? Because I think that question will also lead to helping us develop champions. How do we convince those who feel like they're not getting as much from an expanded grid to come on board and to be more supportive? So with that, I'll just stop there, and I really look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we are given 15 minutes of the panel discussion. We have prepared quite a number of questions actually between us, but also realized that actually we like to give opportunities for audience to ask questions. So let me just give one question each for the panelists, then I will invite audience to also share their question. Just to summarize the key kind of trend in each region, there are certain commonalities, different context, evolution, history, but now all the regions faced, I think, a similar and common trend. One is clear demand. There are buyers. Like Jenny mentioned, there's a big buyers waiting for the clean energy. And the demand is going to be even larger than what we expect now, because what we expected is based on the past trend. But what's coming in the future is with AI and with a lot of the data is requirement in the various areas of the socioeconomic activities. We see that more demand is going to come. And then also the electrifications in the other sectors, for example, in transportations, maybe so not fully captured in our understanding at the moment. So really, we have to expect a much larger demand. Clean energy demand is going to come in the future, and there are opportunities for then us to develop and also be a buyer and to meet this demand and actually achieve the common goals of this energy transition. That's your target. Second trend is traditionally all the regions have a hydro-based power trade. But now a lot of the development is around also the solar and wind and different kind of renewables and different characteristics. So how are we going to deal with the kind of bit more uncertain the energy sources, and then how we can arrange the contracts between the buyers and sellers? So traditionally, it's going to be more on the point-to-grid arrangement, the bilateral contract, but it's now moving toward the multilateral power trade. What tools, what mechanisms that we can use, we can learn from other areas, for example, more advanced countries' experiences in US or Europe may be relevant, but even now in South Asia, we see that kind of use of the power exchange to trade this the variable renewable as part of the power. And then maybe third trend is going to be a political will. So we, especially in the Southeast Asia, we see that kind of political wheels coming. So therefore, it's going to be important foundations for us to work together in the technical, commercial, and financial side. Lastly, but not least, but the green tracking, because the electronics is not really kind of differentiated on the grid level, but the buyers basically clearly needs 100% green electronics. So how we are going to track this green electronics, and maybe not necessarily we are going to discuss among three panelists, but more discussion to come, I think, after break. So with this kind of summary, let me then give the question to Monali, especially in the South Asia. Experience in the use of the multilateral arrangement, power exchange. So how, what kind of the roles do you think actually those power exchange or multilateral power trade can play? And how do you think actually this bilateral contract, the traditional arrangement that actually to really export the power to the neighboring countries will play out in terms of also increase of the renewables in the power trade.
Thank you so again, Ajay. So yes, the region has, let me just back it up and just set a context that right now we have Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal interconnected. Sri Lanka is not yet interconnected, and on the eastern side, Pakistan is also not interconnected. Recently, when the government of India initiated, came up with a very progressive CBT or cross-border regulation, which allows the neighboring countries like Bhutan and Nepal to, and as well as Bangladesh, to trade in Indian energy exchanges. So that itself was a way in which the multilateral trading started happening. There are, obviously it started in 2021, so it's started with a small amount, but has grown up significantly, as I earlier mentioned. So Nepal, what they started doing, they started with a small amount, and right now in the last year, they generate quite a bit of high power during the monsoon seasons. And most of it, in the absence of having this short-term market, was because, and there was no longer-term arrangement, the hydro resources was getting just wasted. So in the past 2 years, they have really managed to, use the exchange which has been available now to them to sell that excess power during the monsoon season in India. And Nepal Electricity Authority, which is the Nepal utility, has earned quite a bit of revenue based on this short-term market, which became available to them. And at one point of time, I think they were also selling it at the rate of 10 rupees also. Now it's been a bit regulated since then, but they gained quite a bit. And seeing the success which Nepal had, the Nepal electricity utility had, Bhutan was also very much enthusiastic, because Bhutan has a different sort of trading mechanism. They just go by government to government trading mechanism. They have just G2G agreements where India together they develop hydropower projects in Bhutan. So they were also interested, and they started, first they started participating in the exchange in order to buy electricity, because Bhutan has an experience unprecedented increase in demand by almost doubling in last 2 years. And their hydro generation, some of the power plants which they were banking on has been delayed, because of which they faced quite a bit of shortage during the winter times when hydro resources goes down. So at that point of time, they used the exchange to buy power. And first year, again, we were hand-holding them. First year, it took a bit of time, but second year onwards, they have managed to get the hang of it, and have slowly reduced the cost at which they're buying and using their own hydro resources more intelligently, so that they are benefiting from that. So what we see is that both these countries are now quite familiar with this mechanism which is available with them. Recently, the real-time market was also opened up to them. So now they're pretty fairly reasonably finding this as a useful platform to meet those, short-term, if they want to sell something, they want to buy something. So that's found, a good benefit. Now we're seeing how do we get Bangladesh also to start entering into the exchange. They are constrained by the transmission interconnection. That's one of the bottlenecks which we are facing in the region. But that again is something, and I see Grayson there, so I'll try to wrap it up. So it's proving to be a great thing. And also we see that renewable energy, when India has a tremendous amount of solar energy. So at some point of time, we are hoping that the power markets, the exchanges will also offer these new products, ancillary services product, which could be very useful for other countries like Nepal and Bhutan, and also REC at some point of time, and carbon market is being talked about. So all these provides a great opportunity for, specifically from the short term or the exchanges perspective, that can be used to really accelerate the renewables, or let's say cleaner energy resources. I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Very useful insight and experience in South Asia. So as also Dr. Mai mentioned that, the marketplace is supposed to be multiple buyer, multiple seller trade. And this exchange is the kind of platform or the marketplace that enable the multiple buyer, multiple sellers to trade, and for the all different type of the products, and then especially on the short-term basis, which is not at the moment existent in Southeast Asia and as well as Central Asia. So also let me then ask the question to Bayan, whether there has been any initial idea about the developing this type of the regional power market in Central Asia. What are the key challenges? If you limit your intervention remarks, be shorter, they will be very appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. I'll try to be short. Just basically, as I mentioned, there is no fully functioning power market in the Central Asia yet. We are still at the discussing and development of national strategies for each country. This was requested by the all countries during one of ministerial meetings which were regularly organized within our program. And we are at the stage of discussion of benefits and challenges with each country separately. And then once the consensus reached, of course, the main precondition for power market to start functioning is the political agreement, and of course the technical and legal regulatory framework. So we are within our program we are supporting all these initiatives. And the core elements of the market design we're proposing is since traditionally we have like bilateral trading, so at first phase we propose to continue bilateral trading, which freely agreed by the parties. Then to move to the head market for optimal scheduling of generation resources, and introduce at a later stage real-time market. But of course it will take time and a lot of things still to be done. And at least what we are proposing at this stage is for the government to establish the higher level intergovernmental council, so to reach key agreements on key aspects of this plant market. Then we're proposing the creation of the CAREM Council at lower level. At technical level, of course, the issues of regional interconnectivity and integration to CAPS needs to be resolved. As I mentioned, Tajikistan already is planning to be reconnected, and Turkmenistan is now considering this opportunity, and it will be very beneficial for the benefits of all 5 countries. And of course, there is a need to establish the technical coordinator and the regional system operator. Let's say it is considered now CDC Energia, but different opinion, different. Some countries agree, some countries disagree on that. Also, the financial market operator needs to be established. Again, it is proposed, for example, for COREM, Kazakhstani COREM market operator to be a regional. But I mean, different discussions are ongoing, so the final agreement are not reached yet. So we hope that with the increased share of renewables, with the need for security and stability of the power system in Central Asia countries, this idea will be implemented in practice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's great to hear all the plans and ideas that set up now. We'll look forward to see the achievement and development in the coming years. Jenny, as a last question, you mentioned that actually the ASEAN, the Southeast Asia region is very important for private sector in particular at the moment. So what do you want to see more actually from the political leaders and then also policymakers or utilities in terms of progressing the multilateral power trade for the private sector? What kind of regulatory or policy actions you want to see more?
Yeah, thank you. And I see I have like maybe 1 minute plus to answer that question. And there are probably a lot of different policies that could be very helpful. Certainly in the paper, we did outline a few, and some include holistic regional planning. So certainly a framework agreement that commits to setting up a process where we can plan the interconnectors on a regional basis, include all kinds of basically optimize the renewable generation that could be available, where the renewable demand is going to be, optimize the types of newer technologies on the grid that we can use to make the grid build as efficient as possible, optimize the ability for customers to implement demand response. We're looking to make the system as a whole more flexible. The grid is like one giant machine, so all of these components have to be working together. So in terms of prioritization, the grid is a technology neutral mechanism. The markets are technology neutral, but prioritizing interconnectors that can help us get the renewables to load would be very helpful. I mean, it's going to be a lot of time and effort spent trying to get these things in place. And lastly, RECs, cross-border tracking of RECs. And I see I'm completely out of time, but that is one of the most important things that the clean energy buyers are looking for, is a system that's harmonized across borders. Thank you.
Thank you. So the last rec is going to be extensively discussed after break. So we'll maybe save this one for a later session. Since we started a bit late, let me just ask extra 10 minutes out of the break. And so ask questions from the audience. Maybe can we invite one or two questions?
Grayson saying no to that. I'm very sorry, SJ. But I think like for the audience to ask the question, maybe we can use the coffee break time that they can come to all the speakers. We are all gonna be here, and then feel free to do that during the coffee break.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, all the panelists, and thank you very much for your attention.
Welcome back, everyone, and good morning for those who just joined our session. This is the second part of our deep dive workshop on identifying and enabling frameworks for renewable energy multilateral power trade. And in this second part of the deep dive workshop, we are having 5 speakers waiting for you. But before I introduce our first speaker, I would like to encourage all of the speakers to keep your presentation in 10 to 12 minutes, so that by doing that, we will have 5 more minutes for the floor to ask you questions. So thank you for that. And yes, so I think we are ready for our next session, which is the institutional and financial frameworks for renewable energy multilateral power trade, presented by Ms. Yi Jin Ha, an Economic Affairs Officer from UNESCAP. Please join me in welcoming Yi Jin to the stage. I think we need a clicker for Yi Jin.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a great honor and privilege to be invited to speak at this workshop, which happens to have all women speakers. So very happy about that. So my presentation will be on the governance frameworks for moving forward the renewable energy multilateral power trade. But before we go into the governance frameworks, I want to briefly highlight some of the drivers of multilateral power trade in the Asia and the Pacific. So first and foremost, multilateral power trade is driven by economic considerations. Power trading allows countries to optimize resources and tap into less expensive sources of power. Also, power trading increases energy security and access by improving diversity of supply. A second driver in the context of smaller economies is the potential to attract investments for infrastructure expansion and upgrades. The economies of scales that can be achieved through cross-border connectivity can greatly increase the financial viability of infrastructure projects. And lastly, and of course, increasingly, multilateral power trade is being driven by countries' needs to increase renewable penetration. Multilateral power trade not only provides direct connections to renewable sources of energy, but also provides grids with required flexibility and reliability to integrate more renewable energy than would be otherwise possible at the national or bilateral level. And also we've heard Shani and Jenny mention the growing need from the private sector to have renewable energy procurements. However, despite these strong motivational factors that drive multilateral power trade in the Asia Pacific, um, progress has been extremely slow in Asia compared to other parts of the world. While regional power markets have been established in almost all other regions, including Europe, North America, Africa, and Latin America, in Asia, nearly all power trading occurs on a bilateral basis. Some of the identified challenges include the lack of political commitment and trust, which has been a crucial hindrance in the case of Northeast Asia. I've been working in Northeast Asia for quite some time, and these projects were very near and dear to my heart. And it was very difficult to move things forward because there's always a lot of issues in getting commitments, even at a very low level, to move the projects forward, despite having close to 30 years of research done on how the countries would benefit from power interconnections and trade. Also, institutions to support the development and operations of markets do not exist or exist with limited mandates to drive regional power trade. Diverse regulatory frameworks across countries trying to engage in multilateral power trade bring added complexities and inadequate investment and financing to modernize the infrastructure backbone has made it difficult to move forward with identified projects. In addition, there are technical challenges and capacity gaps that also act as barriers to progress. So the key to unlocking the potential for multilateral power trade in the region, especially renewable energy power trade, is to develop enabling governance frameworks to minimize and overcome these challenges. To this end, SCAP has developed what we're calling the Green Power Corridor Framework under the Regional Roadmap for Power System Connectivity, which was endorsed by our 53 member states in 2021. The Green Power Corridor Framework sets out principles for institutional, financial, regulatory, political, and social governance frameworks for strengthening the regional power grid connectivity towards increased access to clean, affordable, and secure electricity supply. Today, I will focus on the institutional, regulatory, and financing frameworks. And although not an explicit governance framework in the Green Power Corridor Framework, the important role that regional master plans play in building and sustaining political accord, as well as ensuring greater renewable energy integration and trade. So starting with the institutional framework, which is essentially national, sub-regional, and regional organizations that support and steer, monitor, and enable the development of cross-border power system infrastructure and trade. These often start out with political support for developing multilateral power markets, which leads to the formation of dialogue platforms and working groups that then go through a process of formalization, whether it be in the form of MOUs or agreements. And looking at the development operation of regional power pools in other regions, a well-functioning multilateral power market almost always have strong supporting institutions. However, the role and functions of the institutions may vary depending on the market model. So for this reason, I wanted to briefly touch on the different market models for multilateral power trade, which greatly depends on country preferences. And I wanted to share one study that was conducted by CET that found a very interesting set of preferences in the Asia Pacific region. Countries were found to not favor full common trading markets, full open access, complex trading instruments, and unbundling in the domestic market. Although many countries are now moving towards unbundling. Instead, countries are in favor of having their own market design and rules, but having common guidelines for technical and physical interconnection of power grids, data sharing on cross-border transmission capacities, centralized institutions to support and coordinate trade, and a special financing fund. So looking at these preferences in the ASEAN context, we see that the 6 principles that were endorsed by the ASEAN member states in 2018 to guide the multilateral power trade in the ASEAN region reflect the preferences that were revealed as shown by the study. So these 6 principles include efforts to establish multilateral power trading should be stepwise and voluntary. Power trade should focus on gaps and excesses and not require full participation of all domestic generation in a regional power market. And national regulations should be complemented by regional coordination. While some regulatory alignment may be necessary to support trade, multilateral power trading should not require complete regulatory harmonization among the participating countries. And fourth, multilateral power trading should be supported by the expansion of regional power system infrastructure, and a master regional infrastructure plan should be developed with multilateral power trading in mind. And the fifth point was that true multilateral power trading will require the development of a regional wheeling price model. And lastly, but not least, multilateral power trade should support the development of sustainable power systems. For example, it should help to increase the deployment of variable renewables like wind and solar, and should help enable increased electricity access. So these principles actually essentially captures the building blocks of the governance framework that needs to be put in place to develop and operationalize the ASEAN Power Grid. In terms of the market model then, the elements of stepwise and voluntary development indicates a market that combines a harmonized bilateral trade, possibly with wheeling, as in the case of the LTMS PIP, and an optional regional trading market that allows trading on surplus supply and demand. So this combined model is also in line with the vision of creating a fully connected ASEAN power grid, but which gives the flexibility and autonomy to opt in and out depending on national needs. So from an institutional and regulatory perspective, recent IEA study categorized the stages of institutional architecture development from early stage, where trade is occurring mostly through bilateral arrangements, a shallow integration stage where regional regulatory bodies and or steering committees are in place but face enforcement challenges, and a deep integration stage with regulatory bodies which can enforce rules and regulations on its members. Despite this categorization, where GMS and LTMS PIP are grouped in the early stage, there will be greater benefits of designing an institutional framework with a regional coordination mandate which can advance multilateral power trade, even at the early stage of only having bilateral agreements. The regional coordinator or regional institution can have different responsibilities, and where all the responsibilities need not be within a single entity, the core function should be in centrally coordinating multilateral power trade development and regional cross-border energy planning, including infrastructure planning and financing. In the ASEAN case, there will also be sub-regional institutions that coordinate the subset of power markets, and the central regional institution should also be able to coordinate among the sub-regional institutions. In addition, the regional coordinators should drive aspects of regulatory harmonization that is required for MPT by providing regulatory guidance on, for example, alignment with national priorities and regulations, and a dispute resolutions mechanism. And lastly, there should be a market operator function to deal with data sharing, demand supply matching, and wheeling charges methodology. So as mentioned earlier, the regional coordinator or institution should be given adequate executive power to drive the necessary changes and enable multilateral power trade. Oh, running out of time. Okay. Okay, so moving to the role of a master plan as a governance framework, um, power market development, especially multilateral ones, and the interconnection infrastructure involve high costs and are very complex in nature. This argues for a coherent regional approach to planning and financing. So in this regard, regional master planning takes place to identify priority infrastructure development processes, find pathways for resource optimization, promote policy alignment across countries, and increase resilience and reliability, especially for integrating variable renewable energy. So I will skip through the ASEAN slide. And this is an example of the ASEAN Master Plan studies, which have gone through 3 phases and now has played a very important role in identifying the priority 18 interconnectors. And then to move from master planning to implementation, there needs to be a financing framework to govern what and how projects get financed. The financing framework should put in place principles that take into account not only the financial viability of projects, but the project's contribution to increasing the integration of renewables. Also, in determining the financial viability of projects, there should be an agreement on or standardized methodologies for conducting feasibility studies and modeling. And last but not least, a dedicated financing facility can greatly expedite the implementation of identified projects. For example, in SAP, there's a regional transmission infrastructure finance facility. And the SAP facility does 3 things. It provides project preparation and transaction advisory services, which involves providing support to to go from an idea stage to actual actions. And then secondly, it supports project level debt structuring, including viability gap financing. And lastly, it actually does funding itself, acts as a funding platform itself. This is the last slide. So another good example comes from the European Union, where they go through identification of projects of common interests. And the projects of common interest benefit from accelerated planning and permit granting, a single national authority for obtaining permits, improved regulatory conditions. They also lower administrative costs and increase public participation via consultation and increased visibility to investors. So it also acts as a signal to private investors that the projects of common interests are bankable projects and financially viable projects. So I'll stop my presentation there and happy to take any questions from the floor. Thank you.
Jin, is there any questions from the floor? We have the microphone right at the center of the room, so if you have any question, feel free to go there and ask your question. Okay, there's one from Grayson.
Hi, Yejin. Grayson Hefner from the USAID Smart Power Project. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the role of ASEAN entities, ASEAN regional entities in the power sector, specifically EARN, the ASEAN Energy Regulatory Network, and HAPUA, the heads of ASEAN power utilities and authorities. What kind of role these networks can play in bringing about more cooperation, more political will, more dedication to governance frameworks needed for multilateral power trade? Thank you.
This is probably a question that Shani is in a better position to answer. But just to start off, so HAPUA and EARN have been playing a very important role in coordinating among the utilities and the regulators to set the standards for creating the multilateral trading environment. So, for example, in the HAPUA case last year, There was discussion on creating a data sharing platform, which is quite critical to ensure that the projects are, bankable projects, and it provides a strong case for the interconnector projects. So those kinds of that kind of activity, these are really essential institutions that are driving currently the multilateral power trading initiative within ASEAN. But I think what's missing is a stronger and more coordinated institutional framework at the moment. Because Papua and EARN, they have their mandates, but maybe need more empowered mandates to kind of take on additional roles in terms of standardizing, for example, bilateral contracts and deciding on a wheeling charges methodology, for example. So those kinds of areas would benefit from a stronger institutional framework and a regional coordination. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yejin. And I think it's about the time. So let's give her another round of applause. Thank you so much. And the next session would be something that we already discussed or mentioned a little bit on renewable energy certificates or RECs. And the presenter is Kun Manchuta Kingnet, Head of Renewable Energy Business Session also from EGAT.
Well, thank you very much, Kun Mei. I promise I will keep it short, even though I'm from the ICAT, similar to Kun Mai. And I just would like to thank you, the ASEAN Development Bank and also USAID, to get the opportunity for me and also the time that I would like to discuss with you on how the national and regional renewable energy certificates or RECs frameworks can unlock renewable energy multilateral power trade. So today I would like to share with you include the RECs market update and also the dynamic in ASEAN, as because of each country has been developed the REC mechanism in their own country for many years, started from 2016 or even earlier. But then there's not really state into the power trade contract that electricity also bundle with the energy attribute certificate or not. So today, I think it's time moving forward in the future that the contract of the multilateral power trade can be state of the energy attribute, as so is the tracking mechanism that too can be reported to the global standard. So when we look at the global transition to renewable energy, so the RECs mechanism have become an essential for reporting electricity consumption by corporate institutes and individuals. So they have a primary tool to comply with the greenhouse gas protocols and enhance corporate sustainability report. So that is in line with the Science-Based Target Initiative or RE100 goals. The certificate can be sold by electricity producer to the consumers through a book and claim system, providing additional revenue to support renewable energy generation to develop the market integration in ASEAN. So when we're focusing on the ASEAN RECs market, we can see that it's maybe not the local solution may not be in place yet. So the robust global recognized frameworks are crucial to create a strong local voluntary renewable energy market aligned with the global corporate demand. The tradable instrument for global renewable, or we call it TIGERs, from the APEC registry and also the IREC for electricity from the International Tracking Standard, or iTrack is former for the IREC standard that we know are available in ASEAN. The iTrack is particularly active in ASEAN markets, especially in Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand, and Philippines. Currently, the Green Certificate Company, or GCC, is the central issuer, while Thailand is the only ASEAN country with the local issuer accredited to IGAT. So the local issuer and the LEX facilitator worldwide usually connect and support the local regulatory and legal structure. So to integrate the REX market, there's two main fundamentals that really need to consider. So the first one is the grid connectivity and the market integration. So this will ensure that the REX system are supported by a robust grid connection between countries, which is essential for creditability and the effectiveness of the well-integrated regional REX market within the power trade system. The market integration can create a clear consensus on the development of the new energy and the market energy for affordable and creditable to drive the further adoption as well. When we take a look at the national REC market, the leading ASEAN member and the market player have proactively adopted REC mechanism in the voluntary market at the financial and also the market-based instruments. So in Philippines, it have also collaboration with iTrack to launch the Philippines Renewable Energy Market System, or PRMS, offering the similar approach to purchasing RECs. And also on the state-owned utility, as we've seen in Indonesia, the PLN, the company can purchase tigers issued by the US-based APX to the state utility as well. So in Malaysia, for instance, introducing the MGAT as the National Renewable Energy Certificate System with the pilot program that complete in 2022. And also they also developed another program that called Green Electricity Tariff or GET program, which was launched by using the iTrack registry. The reason behind that is because MGAT might not be recognized in the globally worldwide. So using the iTrack as the mechanism is the global company that they operate not just only in Malaysia, but also worldwide in European or in the US can be able to claim that. Similar to Thailand, so we are now also developing the Utility Green Tariff Program, or we call it UGT, which will provide a credible claim using the global tagging standard as well, or iTrack. So this voluntary utility program is designed to follow the similar guideline to demonstrate a validity to the RE100 concept, allow the eligible consumer to purchase both energy and also associate RECs from renewable energy project to their electricity bills. So aside of the national market, the market player in Singapore, Laos, PDR, Vietnam, and Cambodia, or Brunei Darussalam support the policymaker and regulators in drafting the guideline, both global and regional best practice on renewable energy certificate standard. More importantly, the cooperation between countries is crucial. So later, our colleague speaker, Chani, will explain more about the Renewable Energy Certificate System or recap in the BEAM program. The conversation is very important that you have to collaborate and study and share the know-how so that the market can be integrated to the ASEAN. So together with the market players, we support the market growth and the development. So they are the two drivers of the success this market, driven by the key factors, including the regulatory and also voluntary support. The regulatory side will provide the strategic frameworks, incentive, and the subsidy that can enhance the renewable energy deployment across the ASEAN. On the voluntary side, the initiative like RE100 member will push a voluntary electricity consumer that can choose renewable sources for their environmental, economic, and also social benefit. Assuming that the standalone that RECs are phased out of the international market in the future, the regional power purchase agreement or the PPA through the regional regs would present more effective solution than a single country model. And fun fact is that the RE100 members that are located in Southeast Asia have strongly grown rapidly. There is more than about 60% that growth that they have been reported by using the reg certificate system. And that's because of the stakeholder in the market would like to credible a cross-border transaction to meet the framework requirement as possible. Also, the government is planning to facilitate the import and export that our speaker has mentioned earlier, that the clean energy from the additional installed capacity and also the scale up the transmission. The report frameworks then can help to streamline those efforts and provide the recommendations or guidance to the stakeholder in supporting the credible transactions and impact globally worldwide. This here is the example of one of the comprehensive and the global recognized sustainability report framework or carbon disclosure project, we call them CDP. So they has launched a guideline of accounting for cross-border renewable energy trade to achieve the challenge of the global reporting frameworks. Currently, they do not recognize the cross-border of REX transaction in ASEAN yet. It's not like the guarantee of origin in Europe that they can be traded all around Europe and can be reported. So they come up with the guideline that we might be considered if we are going to developing the multi-power trade. So which is the physical grids are substantially interconnected, the attribute and the account recognition. And the last one is the consistency of registration. Some of the countries have already achieved the physical grids that have been Thai, Laos, Thai, Malaysia, and all those countries. We have been grid connected. And some of the countries, they have attribute already, most of the country is accredited to the IREC standard, and Tiger, we have been using that. What we lack of is the accounting, so we need to tracking those reg transactions to preventing the double counting and also using for calculating the carbon emission, grid residual mix and all that to make sure that the company that they are willing to support, they're investing more on the renewable energy, they have competitiveness and willing more to support the renewable energy portion in ASEAN. So for the registration, this means the country need to be are in a favor to facilitate and implementing cross-border transaction to legislative alignment. It will be a deep conversation that two countries or the government that need to be have a discussion. So this is my slides. I'll just keep a key takeaway. So ASEAN today is more interconnected than ever before as the attribute tracking become necessary a part of electricity market development. A robust grid connection between countries are essential for creditability and effective need of regional reg system. So reg standard plays a crucial role in ensuring both power generator and also end user have access to credible, transparent, and global harmonized information about origin of their electricity that they consume. So RECs are become a common denominating instruments for new energy market beyond electricity. In the future, we might need to have a certificate or the tracking system in green hydrogen, just CDR, green gas certificate and all that to make sure that all attribute has been redeemed using by the end user. So the design of the national RECs market renewable energy depend on a deeper integration of entire energy market, a complex process that will require political cooperations in a new way for the market that wish to integrate into a new era of multilateral power trade market. The additional tracking layer will be implemented in different countries and the different stakeholders in countries that need the collaboration. So together, we will drive the market transparency and integrity with the greatest benefit as possible. Is it important step for ASEAN in the sustainable energy sector? And expect to foster the regional future energy transition and collaborations because the clean energy is not belong to any particular group, but for all. Thank you very much.
Khun Jasmine for the great presentation and sharing EGAT experience on setting up REC issuer in Thailand and also your perspective on ASEAN REC markets. So just would like to open the floor for the questions to Khun Machuta, if there is any question.
Yeah, so if...
Okay, please, Khun Pirapat.
For further question, is just feel free to email me or...
Thanks very much for the presentations. My question, you mentioned about the direct market and also the multilateral trade, and there are challenges for both. But what's your view in terms of the priority? Which one should come first? Because multilateral trade in itself is already quite challenging, and then now we have direct market for ASEAN. So what should be the priority? Thanks.
This is a very good question. Thank you very much. So there is a two dimension and also it's separate topics. So they both are very important. And I cannot say that which one that need to take a priority, but they are both have kind of like a support to each other. So the REX market, they have been developing and also the unbundled REX can be traded all over the world already. What we lack of is to combine, or it's called bundle for the contract for the multilateral power trade. So when we develop the multi-energy power trade, especially for renewable energy that the consumer is required, so REC certificate can be support to those. So whenever the power grid have been developed, the REC mechanism has also need to develop as well, as not just because which one is more important, and that's because the RECs can be also tracked and can be empower of the grid power trade is more sufficient transparency and credibility in the future.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It was very interesting. Just a related question to what was already asked. As we see the markets develop, we have the NDCs on a global basis, and we have ASEAN, which is trying to reconcile the market. But we also have CBAM coming into play in Europe. As we look at CBAM, it is actually asking for the green electrons to be utilized compared to NDCs where the REC markets could actually play out. From your perspective, from EGAT's perspective, how are you looking at these different markets? How are your consumers reacting to these markets and the system that you're putting in place? We'd love to hear a perspective on it.
Yeah, so for CBAM is the policy for the carbon border adjustment as well. Is for the financial benefit and also to encourage or to compliance of the company that been export to the European country for the carbon border adjustment. So this way the company have a conscious, not just only the company itself, but also supply chain as well. So the big corporate company, they are ready, they have a tracking system of their carbon emission, but how about supply chain or the SME that we are talking about? So the UN ESCAP and all the organization that they are working together to help the supply chain that support the mainstream of the company to achieve the CBAM certificate. So, and also the NDC as well. NDC is another story as because of is on the policy of each country. So they do have a Paris Agreement and also the greenhouse gas calculating, which is the majority of how to calculate. However, in ASEAN regions, there has no sign from far as I know of. There has no calculating for residual mix. So with the REX trading platform or the sharing information, there will be help to each country have tracking and also recalculate the correct way of renewable energy or residual mix in the market. This way, they will make a fair play to all the company, I would say that, if that answers your question. Thank you.
Much ka, Kun Mashuta, for the wonderful sharing. Oh, there's more question. Okay, yeah.
Thank you for the presentations. I'm Viravit, Chief of Party, the USAID WWF Mekong for the Future. I think this REC is very useful tools, and I think in terms of like to certify those projects, I'd just like to maybe ask, for your thoughts on how we would be able to create like mechanisms to be more inclusive of like environmental and social safeguards in terms of how we would be able to certify those projects. As you mentioned, there are cross-border trades, so there could be trans-boundary environmental and social impact on all of those projects. And if we would be able to bring in maybe more inclusive civil societies and community to be more engaged in terms of the planning, development, and also monitoring and certify. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very good idea. And also some of the related departments that they are also consider that as well. So for ASEAN, we don't have similar to a European country that they do have the AIB or association issuing body. We do have an issuer of the Tiger at the APX and also the local issuer, for example, like EGAT and also the GCC, that is a central issuer. So we should have a conversation and also the study of how can we form the local issuer, the issuer for ASEAN. We use the same mechanism and also the company that can be traded as well. So beside that is definitely need to have more impact in terms of the social benefit and also environmental. We call it a premium REX. So there is the labeling tracking is on top is called as a premium REX. So you can register to the Green East or the gold standard. That is for the carbon market as well. So similar to those, you can sell REC that is more valuable of that, and also the company that they might have a different objective, not just only to access to 100 clean energy, but they also might need to support the local farmers or the education as well. Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts and experience on REX. And if there is any other question, feel free to come to Kun Mangshuta after this presentation. So let's just move to the next session on the regulatory frameworks for renewable energy multilateral power trade. And we are having two presenters joining this session. The first presenter, welcome back Ms. Nadila Shani to the stage, and welcome Ms. Monica Merdekawati. Both of them are senior officers from ACE. Oh, just only you. I'm sorry for not being updated. Okay, welcome back, Shani. And if you may want to discuss the questions on roles of earns and Hapua for the power trade, as well as maybe describe the recap. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and apologize that my colleagues cannot be here due to some flight problems, so I will be presenting on behalf of her as well. So I think we've discussed a lot of the building blocks in order to put in place or facilitating the renewable energy multilateral power trade in the regions, and this is just to perhaps a summary of what we discussed. We think that there are three things that needs to be in place. First, we hear that the political will and trust should be there, and this could be achieved by facilitating or establishing intergovernmental agreement. And currently, ASEAN has one. We have the APG MOU that we are having since 2007 on enabling this highest level commitment from our leaders. And we are working towards the renewal process of that, just to ensure that we have framework agreement on to touch the political buy-in from everyone that involved in the APG. The second is to ensure the interoperability, and this, in fact, we touched some of these topics in the previous sessions. Data sharing framework, grid harmonizations, and also available transfer capacity. These are the important building blocks in ensuring the secure operations of the interconnectors. And the third is coming back again, if we want to have more interconnection in place, we need the way how to finance it. So figuring out the wheeling charges and also the regional RECs as part of the revenue stream perhaps is important to be discussed as well. So I'll be sharing what are the the regional view on this, while there are in the national level, these topics has been addressed, but in the regional level in ASEAN, these are things that we are touching upon in our cooperations. And I'm sorry for the title there that's not really seen, but for the data sharing, we hear that it's important for the utilities if we want more cooperations or cross-border tradings. Everyone needs to know what others are doing, and in order, if we want to see if the cross-border trade is progressing, we need to really know how much that we are trading now in the existing. And so a stepwise data sharing is something that we are proposing. We are working together with USAID as well on putting in place a platform where we could share the cross-border historical data that happens in the regions. And why this is important, because I think in the national level, all the utilities has their report and coordinated this data, but it's important to share to one another so we know what are the bottlenecks of this cross-border trading and what are the opportunities, basically, where the opportunities lies ahead. And data sharing is something very delicate and sensitive manners because, yeah, like Yejin mentioned previously, that perhaps people are not it's a confidentiality issues and etc. So they are reluctant to do that, but there is a highest benefit or importance, and it depends on what kind of data shared that actually brings the benefit or encourage more renewable or multilateral power trade in the regions. So what we are trying to do is that we want to propose a framework of data sharing and a stepwise framework. What are the data and who owns the data, and what kind of platform, secure platform that we can share the data. And then we want to propose this in the highest level so that it can get endorsed, so we can put this in place in ASEAN. The next is, I want to just a little bit touch upon the grid code harmonizations and available transfer capacity as one of the key building blocks to ensure the interoperability of these interconnectors. Actually, this topic has been put as action and milestones under the current APAEC now. So we have a rough idea on, yeah, if we want to ensure the interoperability, there should be alignment and harmonizations of the interconnecting grids. And right now we see that in ASEAN there are there are different phase of interconnections. I would say in the north subregions where the GMS it's more well interconnected than the east and in the south regions. So the types of harmonizations, we don't have to align all of this to make a regional grid code, but it's a minimum thing that perhaps this utility needs to agree based on their operations to ensure that both operations are safe. So we have a plan and milestones in place under the APAEC that we are coordinating with the Papua, head of ASEAN Power Utilities, to put in place this grid code harmonizations. And we are also working with EARN, ASEAN Energy Regulators Network, from the regulators, because they are the one that perhaps seeing this cross-border to regulate this cross-border tradings. That the same goes as well with the available transfer capacity, because then if you want to trade power you need with others, you need to know how much is actually the allocated or transmission capacity that is available. And for this, this needs to be coordinated in the regional level or sub-regionals level. Same goes with the wheeling charges. So now we have the LTMS, and we know that currently the LTMS using the existing infrastructure. So if we want to put more interconnectors there, how it get financed and how the wheeling charges calculations should be put in place in order to put new interconnectors. So are the topics that we put as priority as well to be addressed in our cooperations under the current APAEC as well. And touching upon the regional REC, basically this topic is quite new. So it's just started like 3 years back. In the current APAEC or our regional cooperations blueprint, there's no specific topic that we address RECs, but this is coming from the country's interest, that REC is important to be discussed, and we need to, like Jasmine mentioned previously, there should be a regional sort of like framework in coordinating the RECs, while in each of the country they have their own either voluntary or complementary RECs market. They in ASEAN level, if we want to do cross-border trading, how to verify that the trading from renewables are from the accounting of those RE electrons needs to be there. And in order to do that, there should be a coordinations between the issuing or like the one that oversee the registry in the national level, to coordinate and to verify those renewable cross-border transactions. So we do a study. It's initiated back in special senior officer meeting on energy in 2020, and it's picked up and endorsed in SOM 2021. And then we started the study looking first at the BIMP countries. So we have a project called RECAP, renewable energy certificate system in BIMP IAGA project. The objective of and the goals of this study is basically to understand what happens the REC market in these countries, and what are the needed things for us if we want to push cross-border trading what are the thing needs to be in place for the regional REC framework. So I will just go for this slide slightly because I think it has been mentioned by the previous presenters as well that the driver that in this market that we studied from the BIMP, all only Philippines that has a compliance market, and in all the other voluntary markets, the buyers is the driver. So we need to understand what are required from the buyer's perspective in order for they be able to claim that the renewables they are getting is really renewable sources. And in ASEAN, or especially in BIM and the ASEAN as larger regions, we have very growing demand and very large addressable market. And just to touch upon the point mentioned related to CBAM as well. So the demand right now in order to be, for them to be competitive in for their compliance to achieve their target, whether it's RE100 or SBTI, it's important for them and its supply chains to use renewables and reduce their emissions. And how this relates to other things like CBAM is that if we want to maintain the competitiveness of our commodities in Southeast Asia, then REX is one of the tools that we need to push because there are a lot of growing commodity as well in the regions that are exported. So addressing the REX and the regional REX framework is the one that we need to address, whether it's nationally or regionally in ASEAN. And yeah, so the study that we are doing, it will serve as a reference. What are the things that we need to put in place in terms of coordinating different REC market and different issuing bodies in the regions. And if we want to encourage more cross-border trading, how should we address the claiming and to avoid like double counting issues for this REC? So this study will serve as recommendations to the ASEAN. What are the key frameworks that we need to address for RECs? So yeah, again, to summarize, the topics that I mentioned is a lot less of the homework basically that we need to do together with the ASEAN member states and the countries. So we are collaborating with different partners in the regions, whether it's technical, regulatory, or putting institutional framework in place. So yeah, I'm happy to connect more and develop new ideas and support for the more renewable multilateral power trade to happen in the regions. Thank you.
Thank you, Shani. As an ASEAN citizen, I would say it's very encouraging to hear that ACE is not just like sit there and do nothing relating to the renewable energy multilateral power trade. ACE has a study on REC markets and as well as an implementation plan on APAEC, including the billing charge and other stuff that are relevant to this power trade. So it's very encouraging for that. So this is the time for our participants to ask questions. I think we have time probably for one or two questions. Yes.
Hi, Shani. Just wanted to build on the mention of CBAM, have been mentioned a couple of times. And the last slide you had, it says that CBAM is a game changer. It really is a game changer for those that aren't aware of this. It's the cross-border adjustment mechanism, which is the EU has put in place, where basically they're going to require any importers of commodities or manufactured goods to show that the energy used in their supply chains to manufacture or to extract those commodities is green. And so that will be a huge additional market for renewable energy, a huge driver for renewable energy demand by not only the big corporates and the big data centers from the U.S., but from the thousands of supply chains that manufacturers and extractive industries send to Europe. So I just wanted to mention that it's going to be a big additional demand for renewable energy that these interconnectors will need to provide. So.
Thank you.
It's more a comment than a question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Penny. So our last presentation for this workshop would be from Jacqueline Cochran, the Director of Grid Planning and Analysis Center from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, or NREL. She was flying from the US to be there to present, to be here to present the VRE firming strategies for seamless and reliable renewable energy multilateral power trade. The floor is yours, Jacqueline.
Thank you, and thank you USAID, ADB, and the USAID SPP program for organizing such a wonderful set of speakers today. I'm really honored to be part of this. I'm taking a grid operations perspective today as we're talking about multilateral power trade. And I want to start with just some of the benefits that come from multilateral power trade specific to renewable energy. The first is geographic smoothing of variable generation. I'll go over this, all of these in more slides. Lower electricity production costs, as well as resource adequacy. And by this I mean being able to meet the high stress periods on your grid, whether that's, sorry, this seems really echoey. Is it okay? Okay, good. Whether that's like, you know, on a heat wave where you have a lot of extra demand, or maybe you have a long period where you have low wind and solar on your grid, or you have some other kind of extreme weather event. So first, let's talk about the geographic smoothing. These are really old charts, and I'm keeping these because this is a pretty old idea. When we first were adding a lot of wind and solar to the grid, people were very concerned about the variability of wind turbines or power plants, because you can have a cloud go over, the wind can stop, or you know, for the afternoon. And what we have seen, you know, in practice is when you have multiple like locations and numbers of variable generators, wind and solar, you get a natural smoothing effect from aggregating them. And so, for example, on the top chart, this is wind turbines. And so it's the difference in variability between 200 turbines and 15 turbines. And the bottom chart is solar plants. And this is the difference between like a single plant and several plants, and all the renewable energy plants of solar in Southern California. That's that nice smooth curve that follows the tracking of the sun. And so the reason why I'm bringing this up with this topic is one of the benefits to importing renewable energy from other countries in terms of grid operations is you can help add to that smoothing effect, especially if your grid within the country has a lot of variability. You know, adding more from other locations, you know, you capture different weather events through these imports, which can help. Another topic which has already been talked about, Manali brought this up, is just being able to access lower electricity production costs. And this is pretty straightforward in its concept. You know, the more options you have for electricity, the more likely it is that you're going to find lower cost resources. So for example, on the left chart, this is a study we did 5 years ago looking at, you know, how would, if Bangladesh imported electricity from either Nepal through hydro or from India in Tamil Nadu through wind, you know, how would that affect the production costs of the system within Bangladesh? And you can see there's, you know, the study goes through how much it offsets and what the savings are associated with this, but this does provide new resources for the grid operators so that you can save the more expensive fuel plants for meeting peak periods. So this is especially this is where a lot of our minds are right now as we're, you know, I'm from a research organization, and this is what we're trying to figure out is as you add a system with more and more renewable energy, how do you make sure you stay reliable when things go wrong, when you have these extreme weather events and so forth? And how do you measure that? So what we have learned is that there's a lot of value from importing electricity from other regions to help contribute to resource adequacy. And this is the US, and I know it's just one country, but really we are a lot of regional power grids within the US, so we can still think about the value of improving our regional trading. What this is looking at is when are the worst times for wind energy on the system? And this is looking at 7 years of weather data. This is from our forthcoming national transmission study. So this is, you know, looking towards the future where we have a lot more renewables on the system. But let's, you know, where are we vulnerable on low wind days? Each of these maps looks at each region. So one region would be highlighted in red, and in that region, which is the worst wind day. So in the box that's highlighted, for example, in California, the worst wind day is in 2013 in November, and then the average capacity factor of all the wind plants in that state is 2%. So not very much. If you're a planner, you're very concerned about having so little energy on that day, because what if this is the case for 3 days or 4 days? How do you manage that? And what's really interesting in this research is the neighboring regions often have much windier conditions, even on that really bad day in that one region. So on that California, if the neighboring regions have average capacity factors of 45 and 40%, that's 20 times as much wind. And so if California is able to tap some of that neighboring generation on those days, it's in much better shape for managing these extreme events. Another way to think about this resource adequacy aspect of the trade is, you know, what are the benefits from sharing resource adequacy? And so here I'm talking about, are you planning your power grid so that you're only relying on your own resources for when things go wrong? Or are you also thinking about what you could be importing from your neighboring regions in terms of managing this grid? There is a lot of savings to be had if you are able to import electricity from your regions. So this chart on the left is savings to production costs from sharing resource adequacy. So the higher the bar, the better off, the more the savings. Each of those colors represents a different scenario in our study. The differences among the scenario doesn't matter for this particular talk. What I want to emphasize is that no matter which scenario, you can save significant amounts of money in terms of how you're planning for a reliable grid at all times of the year from being able to import renewables from your neighboring regions. On the right, we're looking at what is the interregional transmission capacity in gigawatts with and without this resource adequacy sharing. Let's just focus on the right column. What this is saying is that when you are allowing resource adequacy, the least cost way of building out your system would want to have a lot more transmission. So if you're building your system and you're not relying on your neighbors, you only need the transmission for your day-to-day operations. But if you're relying on neighbors for managing these extreme periods, you want a lot more interregional transmission. There's just more value to it. And so that's why you can see in a least cost system on that right column, when you're sharing resources, there's an interregional transmission capacity in our study of 680 gigawatts. But if you're not sharing, it's only 390 gigawatts. So this is just kind of underscoring the point that we should be thinking not just about like, hey, are we lowering costs of electricity from your day-to-day trade, but how can the neighbors help contribute to each other's kind of management of the bad events? Because the bad event in one location doesn't necessarily translate to the same bad event in its neighboring location. That's what we saw with wind. There are similar studies with solar. And so if there's that opportunity for sharing, you want to have significant transmission to allow it. That was a theme that's also been echoed already today. And again, just thinking about just the extreme times two, because as we're adding more renewables, there's a lot of value for meeting that. Okay, so that is, those were the benefits. Now we also have the challenges, and utilities, of course, are very concerned about the challenges that come from renewable energy that's variable. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on this, but a lot of the challenges you can kind of cluster of being like, they're techno-economic challenges, so they're straightforward solutions. We're really looking for what's the least cost way of managing it. And then there's some challenges that are really more engineering driven. The cost isn't as significant, but you're truly trying to find the right engineering solution. So let's take the middle column with the top, the variability and uncertainty of generation. So in this case, for example, a utility might be concerned that if we're adding more variable generation to the grid, let's say from imports, what does that do to the need for operating reserves? How does that affect how I'm dispatching the system? There are a lot of solutions to managing that particular question. This is what we think of as like a short-term balancing problem. We know that wind and solar vary in their output. They're not always like 100% certainty of when and how much it's going to be. So that's why you really want to invest in good renewable energy forecasting. This slide is emphasizing that, this is a slide that we made 10 years ago when there was a lot of talk about, if you add renewables, you need to add equal amounts of storage, or you need to add equal amounts of natural gas to be able to manage that variability. And there was a lot of kind of movement at that time to say, no, there are actually many options. Storage is definitely one of them. Natural gas is definitely one of them. But there are all these other options too. There's ways you can change how you operate the grid. So for example, before there was a lot of renewables on the system, a lot of utilities just scheduled their electricity's unit commitment and dispatch in hourly increments. And then they hold reserves to be able to manage that variability within the hour. If you change that from hourly to every 5 minutes, the variability gets smaller, and that translates to fewer reserves that you need to hold. You're just finding cheaper ways of getting the same goal of a balanced energy system by changing how you operate. Again, investing in renewable energy forecasting, if you have more certainty about the availability of the generation, then you're going to be able to reduce the amount of reserves you hold. So on the right, I listed a bunch of things that are especially helpful for multilateral trading, and I already talked about geographic diversity. But I want to get at some of the questions because there's still a tension of, we want to import renewable energy from other countries, but we really want it to be firm. We want it to be like, I want to know what we're getting and when, because that just makes it easier to manage on the power grid. And when we're adding as we're kind of all developing systems with more renewable electricity, we need, there's a value in adopting a different mindset. Renewable energy has the benefits it provides, right? I talked about some of them, especially, the lower cost resource options and being able to contribute to resource adequacy. So if you have a heat wave and a lot of air conditioning demand, you want that solar because that solar is helping you meet that particular issue. So renewable energy has this set of benefits. One of the benefits is not being firm. And so if the utility or the framework that's being managed to be able to import multi-party trade is trying to make renewable energy look like conventional generation, you're going to end up adding costs to the customer. So if you're adding if you're importing solar generation from one location and wind generation from another, and let's say it's the sun is setting and the solar is going down, and you're requiring this to be firm, you might be requiring them to add battery power as the sun is setting. Meanwhile, it might be getting windier over here, and you're taking that excess wind and you're putting it into a battery. So you're using a battery to discharge on one side and a battery to charge on the other to make each of those firm. And the Madhya Pradesh secretary yesterday also emphasized the value of being able to balance the system at the system level and not at the individual generator level. And so if you're a utility and thinking, well, I think I'm going to add, if we're going to add a lot more renewables and we need more reserves, I'm going to charge more. That might be the case. But there also might be the case that there are ways to reduce the amount of reserves that you need to hold, just based on all the things that we were showing on the previous slide. And then also there tends to be questions about, well, if you are going to add storage to help make things firm, where do you put it? Do you want to put it with like a hybrid plant and put it with the renewable generator? Do you put it on the grid? And the answer to that question is really dependent on the system. There's no one solution. And so you would take the same approach that you would take for locating a coal plant or a natural gas plant. You run models of your power grid and you look at where are the transmission constraints, where's the value of adding a resource like storage, and then that would be where you would put it. Okay, this is my final slide. And I just want to go over a few additional actions that can provide better value to multilateral power trade. The first is just, looking at the different frameworks. This has come up already, whether you import renewable energy through dedicated lines or wheeling or through some kind of coordinated operations or a power market. The second is creating an interregional resource adequacy sharing framework. So I talked a lot about resource adequacy. It is not simple, like in terms of the regulatory aspects of like just making that happen. So there's a lot to do in terms of like, how do you account for renewables that you think will be exported? Or is it firm, is it non-firm, that the country might be importing or exporting when you're talking about like an event that would be part of your resource adequacy analysis. So kind of digging into the framework of how to make that work is important. This came up in the previous presentation to identify transmission transfer needs and then create consistent methods for calculating available transfer capacity. So I'm glad that already was discussed. And then finally, how do you manage these events? Like what if you've got these schedules and expectations of renewable energy imports or exports, but then you want to change that market schedule, because all of a sudden there's this big unexpected event on the system. How do you, what are the rules around that? And how do you find that least cost solution and still give all the investors confidence? That's it. Thank you.
Are there any questions from the floor?
Ready for lunch.
Yeah.
Me too.
I think that means your presentation is very clear. So
right.
no more questions. Good. Okay. Well, thank you, Jacqueline, for sharing your insights on resource adequacy analysis and not treating renewable energy as the conventional power plant. Before we are heading to, or before I invite our last speaker to the stage, can I get a QR code on the screen? Yes, thank you. So let me invite our last speaker to share her perspective. Ms. Wongjalon Wongsikao or Kun Pao. She is a project management specialist from USAID Laos. Please join me in welcoming Kun Pao to the stage.
Thank you so much. Good morning. I think it's already good afternoon. So yeah, I'm just between your lunch. So again, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Wong Dalon Wong Sikeo. I'm a project management specialist, oversee energy portfolio for USAID Laos, and it is my honor to standing here providing the wrap up for this session. As we come to the close of today's deep dive workshop on renewable energy multilateral power trade, I would like to take a moment to reflect on the valuable insights we gained throughout this morning. And I would like to start first on the significance of this workshop. This workshop has highlighted the critical framework to co-develop the ASEAN Power Grid, or APG, and our renewable energy resources. We also acknowledge that multilateral power trading in Southeast Asia is still in its formative stages, with minimal multilateral trade comparing to more established bilateral trade. Which brings me to another key point is that the APG remains the key goal in the ASEAN plans of action for energy cooperation to increase multilateral trade, aiming to enhance regional energy security, resilience, and affordability. Insights from the ASEAN Interconnections Master Plan Study 3 or AIMS 3 have demonstrated the benefits of multilateral power trading, particularly to unlock renewable energy potential while maintaining electricity affordability. We also recognize the significant contributions of women energy experts in driving ASEAN clean energy transition. This workshop is a living proof of this, featuring all female speakers who are subject matter experts from various organizations, agencies with different roles, responsibilities, as well as influence. This demonstrates gender inclusion that is not easy to see in this male-dominated energy sector. So I would like to take a bit more time to summarize key points that we were highlighted by our speakers and then put it into 4 key enabling frameworks for RE multilateral power trade, which is on the governance, regulatory, commercials, and technical framework. I would like to start first with the governance framework. Ms. Yejin emphasized the need for enabling frameworks, institutional support, and a long-term vision for the successful of RE multilateral power trade in ASEAN. She also highlighted the key drivers such as supply security, cost reduction, investment attraction, and achieving net zero targets. She stressed the importance of stepwise efforts, regional coordinations, and infrastructure expansion. Ms. Nadila highlighted the importance of intergovernmental agreements and regional coordinations to enhance cross-border renewable energy use and support ASEAN Power Grid projects. Moving on to the regulatory framework, Dr. Titiporn discussed the phased development of the Laos, Thai, Malaysia, Singapore power integration project. She also emphasized the regulatory harmonization, addressing aging infrastructure challenges, and establishing fair tariffs. On a similar note, Ms. Nadila underscores the need for harmonized grid codes, coordinates transmissions capacity, and regional renewable energy certificates to support RE multilateral power trade. And RAGS is quite new in many countries. Ms. Mansuta Kingnet stressed the technical, regulatory, and infrastructural challenges in the ASEAN RAG market, highlight the importance of adhering to international standards to be credible, and also developing the tracking system for green energy resources. On commercial framework, Ms. Yejin discussed the development of the regional wheeling price model and the ASEAN Interconnection Master Plan study aims to increase the renewable energy integration. and also Ms. Nadila again, emphasize creating the market frameworks like harmonized fueling charges and RACs to encourage investment in this RE multilateral power trade. And for the last framework on the technical side, Ms. Jacqueline presented on the geographic smoothing, interregional sharing of resource adequacy, and enhanced grid operations. She also proposed quite a number of strategies, which include better forecasting, flexible generations, increased sharing among balancing authority areas, and transmission and expansions to manage resource reliability, and as well as system reliability as well. Dr. Titipon discussed utilizing existing infrastructure to transfer renewable energy from Laos to Singapore via Thailand and Malaysia, aiming to enhance energy security and decarbonization. And now I would like to share the main highlight of today's discussion. So demand for clean energy in the regions come from the national targets as well as the private sector demand. Regional power trade can unlock RE potential, reduce greenhouse gases, and save billions of dollars in electricity supply costs. When designing these regional markets, it's important for us to understand the circumstances of each country, which have the unique resource profiles, regulatory frameworks, and technical requirements. This is quite a great opportunity, yet challenges still remain, including political, regulatory, and technical issues that need to be overcome. This workshop is an example of these improved coordinations and cooperations that needed to move forward to more robust regional electricity trade. So as we look ahead, it is essential to link our discussions to tangible actions. And I would like to highlight our USAID mechanism that can provide support and work with partners to unlock and facilitate this RE multilateral power trade. You may guess it right that I'm going to talking about USAID, Southeast Asia Smart Power Program. This program can provide support to establish the necessary work frameworks that we have learned today on governance, regulatory, commercials, and technical enabling frameworks. These include supporting the interconnector feasibility studies, facilitating governance framework on data sharing, which is quite important for this region, as well as other regions as well. Developing frameworks for cost-based billing charges, grid harmonizations approach, implementing market structures on RACs, as well as enabling grid integrations for RE through advanced technology or technical solution. As we reach the conclusions of this workshop, I would like to extend my thanks to our distinguished speakers and also panelists for their insightful presentation as well as their contribution today. Your expertise and perspective have greatly enriched today's discussion. I also would like to express my gratitude to our partners, the ASEAN Center for Energy, for organizing this workshop together with USAID. Your efforts in bringing us female speakers together and provide a platform for such a meaningful exchange and are deeply appreciated. In conclusion, today's workshop has reinforced a shared vision for cleaner, more resilient, and interconnected energy future in Asia. I encourage all of us to take these insights that discussed today back to our respective organization and continue working towards the realizations of our ambitious goals. Thank you so much for your active participations and contribution. Thank you.
So much, Khun Pao, for the wrapping up and the way forward from you. Thank you, Ka. And so as we are heading towards the end of the workshop, like Khun Pao already mentioned, on behalf of the organizer, we would like to thank you all for your kind participation. And And I just would also like, especially one person that I would like to say thank you to. He's the person who designed this whole workshop, deep dive workshop, and he puts lots of effort in pulling and bringing in all the speakers here. So I would like to thank Dr. Grayson Hefner, my SPP colleagues and supervisor. He's a director for power trade, utility modernization and power trade. Thank you for working hard for this workshop. I think that's probably all. So we wish you enjoy the rest of ASAP and safe travels home. Thank you once again for being part of our deep dive workshop, and we hope to see you next year. Thank you so much.